Hey folks, welcome back to my series where I, your friendly neighborhood Terraria builder, attempt to get through the Calamity death mode, which given my over 2.5k hours in the game will be a total breeze. Right, well let's just continue on, shall we? Another day, another glorious opportunity to push our Terraria adventure even further. But despite conquering a number of bosses like the Perforator, Skeletron, and very recently the Slime God, there is one major hurdle we have to contend with: hard mode. Yeah, it's finally time to get into the meat of this mod, and to do that, we have to go right to hell. And to get there, well, we've got to dig. Or at least that's what you'd normally have to do. Instead, I have a one-way express pass to the fiery pits of hell by using this, the auto elevator. And full transparency, this thing is amazing. It's nice, it's wide, perfectly lit up, and gets you where you need to go. Now, since we're on the topic of automatic tools, the perfect partner for the auto elevator is our automatic arena platform builder. I know it's a mouthful, but it's really quite awesome. So I slapped down a few of these and started getting ready to accidentally summon the wall of flesh.
Wait, what?
Thanks, bro. Unsurprisingly, this fight did not go great. And I took out maybe 25% of his health, but undeterred,
I deserve that.
I went back down, added some additional platforms, and cleared out a ton of additional space. And I mean a ton of space. Like, this took me a few hours to get to a place where I felt confident that I could actually take out the wall of flesh. But the arena wasn't the only thing that I needed to boost my confidence. I needed an upgrade. It was time to move off of my sulfurous armor upgrade to the Statagel armor. Now, this rogue set had a few advantages like additional mobility with extra move speed and an extra jump, but importantly, it had more survivability with 7 extra armor, 90 extra health, and the very interesting increased invincibility frame times. Perfect for a boss that does high damage. Or really any boss for that matter. But I need to test this thing out, and what better place to do so than with a slightly easier boss, like say, you know, the Queen Bee for instance. So off to the jungle I went, where I quickly found a hive with a larva, made this absolutely terrible arena. Can this even be called an arena at this point? Well, whatever. I then quickly dispatched the Queen Bee for the first time, and needless to say, the new armor felt pretty darn good. And I thought this armor would be complemented quite nicely by these gel darts, which I hope will give me an additional boost in damage to make this fight on the wall of flesh just a little bit easier. Anyways, with all that done, it was time to head back down into the boiling pits of hell and take on the only thing standing between me and hard mode.
Oh, why did I do that?
Right, well, that didn't exactly go as planned, but I suppose third time's a charm. Son of a... Okay, deep breaths, you got this. So I went down once again and knew that while I had been failing, I had actually been doing better each time I fought. It was going to be a close fight for sure, but I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I tried for a 4th time. And then, I died. But all hope was not lost. With a last-ditch effort from the grave, my final darts landed and the wall of flesh was defeated.
Oh no. It counts.
And I was now in hard mode. I told you it would be a close fight, didn't I? In fact, this fight was so close that I had to head back just to get the treasure bag, and once I got it, I headed home to investigate what new items awaited me. And probably the weirdest one was this hermit's box of 100 medicines. It seems marginally useful, but I'm not really sure why I would care about it. But all hope was not lost, my friends, because there were 2 items that stood out that looked like they would be quite fun. This Black Hawk remote, which provided literal fighter jets as minions and look awesome, and a new rogue weapon, the Blast Barrel, which while it might seem odd to be throwing barrels like I'm Donkey Kong, do have some pretty solid damage. Of course, now that we're in hard mode, we're going to need that extra damage, but more importantly, we're going to need the obvious next thing, and that is to get the hard mode ores. So I headed to the corrupted area that was now totally overtaken by the astral biome and destroyed a few altars to spawn the necessary ores. I also took this opportunity to test out my blast barrel on some of the enemies. After testing out my weapon, I decided to actually do what I came here for, which was to grab a little bit of those hard mode ores, which was just some cobalt. But before I could collect a mountain of this stuff, I ran into the wizard NPC, said hi, and headed back into my elevator to continue to collect all the wonderful ores that I needed. Now it's at this point that I realized something a little bit odd that you might have missed. There weren't any tier 2 or tier 3 ores spawning, so there wasn't any mithril or orichalcum, nor was there any adamantite or titanium. But more on that later. Ignoring this glitch in the matrix, I eventually realized that my inventory was overflowing with all the crap I'd found, so I headed home to drop off my loot and take a little breather. By which I mean there was, once again, a blood moon. As I fought through these initial hard mode enemies, I realized I'm actually kind of strong.
Is it possible to learn this power?
And these enemies are dying quicker than I would have expected, which naturally made me confident that I could do the most important thing in any Terraria playthrough: make progress. So I didn't even really bother finishing up this blood moon, and I immediately proceeded to summon the first mechanical boss, the twins. Now, I've fought this boss so many times that even with an unfamiliar class like the rogue class, this should be a bit of a cakewalk. And it was. I floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee. Until the second phase, that is, where about 2 or 3 well-placed hits from the twins immediately removed all of my confidence and all of my health. So clearly my damage and mobility could use a slight improvement. So I'm thinking at this point the next best thing I can do is to grab some Souls of Light or of Night and sort out what kind of upgrades I might be able to make. And the best way I could think to do this was to head down to the Underground Hallowed and make a large arena. Now, making an arena is often a rather tedious endeavor, but because we're in a modded playthrough, we get to use one of my favorite items, the City Buster.
Do you need a large open area to farm for a lot of materials or an obscure item? Well, then you're in luck, because here at Tommy's Discount Bomb Emporium, we got it all. We got small bombs, we got big bombs, but most important, we got the City Buster for when you're in a hurry and just don't give a sh**. This sucker will level out an entire country mile of stone, silicate, or anything you can think of, and it's perfect for your large-scale needs. So come on down and see what's on offer. Our prices are the buck.
Right, so with an area cleared out and all sorts of materials raining from the sky, I just added some platforms across the entire area and got to farming for Souls of Light, gold, and any items that might be of use to me. Which basically just meant I spent a few hours eviscerating bats, archers, and even this hallowed mimic. Unfortunately, after a long time spent farming, there wasn't actually anything too interesting for me to use. So I headed back and I actually quickly found out that I could simply craft something useful, which was this feather crown. Now, the Feather Crown is a rogue-specific item that provides me with 15% increased projectile speed, which would definitely help improve my overall damage. And I decided to test out my new damage on some of the astral enemies, and specifically the Atlases who could drop Titan Hearts, which I knew were a key component to the Titan Heart armor. This armor was going to be my next upgrade, so I figured may as well get going. So once I arrived in the biome, the only thing left to do was to obliterate my foes and take their hearts. After dispatching enough of these Atlases, I had the required number of Titan Hearts and headed back to craft my new armor. Now with my newfound power in hand, I inexplicably decided to go on and take a boss that I absolutely hate fighting, Queen Slime. I'm not quite sure what inspired me to go fight this boss, particularly given how often I seem to struggle against her, but you will be pleasantly surprised that I got down there and showed her who the real boss is. Okay, no problem, we're just warming up. Let's get back in there and try that again. Right, well, that pretty much went like every other time I fight her. Poorly. But despite my shortcomings, I do have a plan, and that is to find myself another weapon, and I landed on this, the Blazing Star. Basically a very fast boomerang with good range and relatively good damage. So then I went to fight Queen Slime once again and aimed to exact my revenge. And after a long, tedious fight, I activated my rage bar one last time and delivered the killing blow. My revenge was complete. Admittedly, this whole fight was really just to tick the boss checklist off. The items at this point aren't really that good and pretty underwhelming for someone playing the rogue class. But to console myself, I decided to make myself a new rogue weapon, the Prismolate, which has this unique attack pattern where it splits into a ton of separate pieces and actually homes in on the targets. Which makes me think this might just be the perfect weapon to deal with the twins. So let's go for round 2. Right, let's try that again. God damn it. Okay, maybe I don't know how to fight this guy as a rogue, or maybe he's just a lot harder with this mod. I don't know. But in situations like this, it's best to hit the reset button, and for me, that means spending an inordinate amount of time farming a variety of enemies in various biomes, because maybe, just maybe, they will drop me something useful. So I went off to the snow biome and I began clearing out the surface with loads and loads of dynamite to make a nice open space that would allow me to take advantage of the bad weather. The bad weather would allow frost golems to spawn, and hopefully their frost cores would open some possibilities to new items. But they really didn't. From there, I headed off to the underground to use another city buster and cleared out another area to farm whatever might spawn there. Unsurprisingly, this was also not a great use of my time. I then decided to make my way over to the Crimson biome, and along the way excavated this meteorite that had landed. Even though I was almost certain it would not provide much value to me, it did provide me with a very satisfying application of the Ore Veiner mod. I mean, you can feel that, right?
Oh, I can feel it.
Anyways, distractions aside, I made my way down to the Crimson and unleashed yet another city buster, and then set up my arena and spent a bit more time farming the local inhabitants. Unfortunately, after spending a while doing this, I didn't really find anything of use. At this point, you're probably wondering why I'm not progressing further into the game, and to that I say, welcome to Terraria. Sometimes you get lost in building, sometimes you get hard stuck trying to beat a boss, or sometimes you mindlessly farm things. Clearly, I am doing the latter, and this trend continued as I went to the sunken sea under the desert and decided to use yet another city buster to open up a massive area. And I'm not gonna lie, watching the city buster is so satisfying, especially when it clears out a large area of water, which slows my movement. So with that down, I set up some platforms and apparently started the fight against the giant clam, which was a heck of a lot easier while outside of the water. Don't let my minuscule amount of HP make you think otherwise. And then after defeating the giant clam, from there it was really just about taking the time to farm a variety of fauna and flora in this area. Until I got bored and realized I desperately need to make some real progress, and once again, that meant fighting a boss. For some reason, I decided that the twins were probably not the best option for me at the moment. Has maybe something to do with dying to them multiple times, but basically I thought of trying out a different boss, one I had yet to actually ever fight. So this time, I'll be facing off against Cryogen. To do that, first I need to make his summoning item, the Cryo Key. Now, Cryogen can only be spawned in the snow biome, which, given his name, probably isn't all that surprising, but one thing that is going to be really important when facing an enemy that almost certainly is going to have cold, chilled, or frozen attacks is going to be a warmth potion. Of course, I had never actually bothered to use one of these, so full credit to my viewers for yelling at me to actually go ahead and get this. With a warmth potion in hand, no idea what I was getting into, and pretty low expectations, I headed off to the snow biome to try my hand at Cryogen for the very first time. And then with almost no hit points left, this happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Needless to say, I was pleasantly surprised that I could beat this rather tedious boss on my first attempt. And an even greater surprise was that this loot bag actually had something I could use. The icebreaker, which kind of reminded me of a cross between a boomerang and the possessed hatchet from the golem. And my good fortune seemed to continue because just as I was playing around with this new item, a goblin army spawned. And they would become the perfect test subjects for my newfound powers. Needless to say that this weapon is doing some good work, but after defeating the goblins, I was going through some potential recipes and came across this rather interesting item, the Kelvin Catalyst. Yet another potential upgrade, but the requirements were all items from one particular place, from defeating cryogen.
Bruh.
My purpose was clear, my mind ready, my body supple. I was going boss hunting. My second encounter with cryogen went pretty much as expected. I defeated him without much problem. And so I summoned cryogen again, except this time he got the best of me and I suddenly realized, you know what? This Kelvin Catalyst thing, it can wait. It's not that I don't want the item, but when I think of boss fights, this one's a little tedious, and if I'm honest, I'm still really annoyed that I couldn't beat those stupid twins. So stubbornly, I decided I need to take another crack at them. And this time things were going pretty well for the most part. I managed to get one of the eyes down and only had around 2,000 more damage to do before, you guessed it, I died. So I tried again, and then died. And again, where I died. At this point, it was time to put up or shut up. This is embarrassing and this boss has got to go down. I've got way too many hours in this game to keep losing, so it's time to lock in. And as I dodged to the left to create enough distance between me and the remaining twin, the final blows landed and the twins were finally defeated. My victory and the subsequent revenge were now complete. Now, you might be wondering, why is this such a big deal and why was I so dead set on beating these guys? Well, the reason is because in this mod, players must defeat mechanical bosses to unlock the next tier of hard mode ores. Meaning the reason no mithril, orichalcum, or titanium or adamantite was spawning previously was due to not having beat any mechanical bosses. So until we cleared the hurdle of beating at least one mechanical boss, we would never see these ores. This also meant that to be able to unlock titanium or adamantite, I'd need to defeat another mechanical boss. But for now, while I was awash in the glow of victory, I decided to head down and farm the next tier of ores. Once I'd collected a sufficient amount of these next tier ores, I headed home to craft the orichalcum anvil, which naturally would give me access to a new set of equipment, some armors, and weapons, like this electrician's glove, which allows stealth strikes to summon sparks, but more importantly provides them with additional armor penetration, damage, and a little bit of healing on hit. While this was exciting and I wanted to test out the new item, I slowly looked up and realized that night was beginning to set in, and I realized that the endless boss battles, the countless arena builds, and the hunt for specific items had begun to take its toll. I had grown weary and it was time to rest. Tomorrow's adventures would only involve deeper exploration, pose greater challenges, and would require the utmost focus if I wanted to see them through. It was a lot, but I was excited to see what was in store for me. But that would have to wait until the next time.